From the dawn of civilization, man has sought to rise above his present circumstances. He has gazed at the stars and wondered what destiny had in store for him, and he has looked within himself and asked how he might carve his own path toward greatness. History tells us the story of individuals who, though born in the same world as the rest of us, managed to rise mentally, spiritually, financially, and in every way that matters. What separated them from those who remained in the shadows of mediocrity? It was not mere luck, nor privilege, nor the caprice of chance. It was something more profound, the trained mind, the disciplined thought, the deliberate shaping of the inner world that manifests itself in the outer. To train the mind to rise is not a luxury, nor is it a pastime reserved for philosophers or poets. It is the law of success, and it is the very foundation of a life lived with purpose, direction, and achievement. When we speak of training the mind, we are not speaking of some abstract exercise. We are speaking of the most practical, most necessary act any man or woman can undertake. The mind is the workshop of every idea, the birthplace of every invention, the field upon which the seeds of destiny are sown. Yet for most people, it remains untrained, untamed, drifting aimlessly like a ship without a rudder. They rise in the morning, move through their days, and retire at night, but the patterns of thought within them remain unexamined, undirected, and uncontrolled. And so their results remain stagnant, their lives mere echoes of yesterday. But the individual who takes command of his mind, who trains it as a gardener trains the soil, discovers a power so immense, so transformative, that he can scarcely recognize his former self. Think for a moment about the difference between wild land and cultivated land. Left alone, the soil produces weeds, thorns, and chaos, but in the hands of the skilled farmer, it yields wheat, fruit, and abundance. The same law governs the mind. Left alone, it produces fear, doubt, limitation, and confusion. Trained and cultivated, it produces faith, confidence, ideas, and prosperity. It is the law of cause and effect at work in the most personal arena of life. And here is the truth that so few discover. We are not the victims of circumstance nearly as much as we are the victims of undisciplined thought. Circumstance is the child of mind. Train the mind and you train the life. Neglect the mind and life drifts into aimless struggle. Now you may ask, how does one begin this training? The answer is at once simple and profound, by becoming conscious of the thoughts you permit to dwell in your mind and by deliberately replacing the destructive with the constructive. Your mind cannot hold two dominant pictures at the same time. If you fill it with fear, faith cannot enter. If you fill it with doubt, confidence is excluded. But if you deliberately plant the seeds of belief, of vision, of persistence, you will watch your life bend itself in that direction. The laws of the mind are as dependable as the laws of gravity. They work whether or not we are aware of them. To rise, you must cooperate with these laws consciously, purposefully, and daily. One of the most powerful truths you will ever discover is this: you become what you think about. Say it aloud. Write it down. You become what you think about. This law has guided kings, inventors, philosophers, and leaders through the centuries, and it will guide you if you let it. The human being is not a creature of accident. He is a creature of thought, his present circumstances, his wealth or lack of it, his joy or misery, his direction or confusion. These are but the outward manifestations of the inner patterns of thought he is allowed to dominate. And the marvelous news is that by training the mind, by directing thought, by choosing belief over fear, you can rise as high as you dare to set your vision. Consider for a moment what you feed your mind each day. Every book you read, every conversation you hold, every image you allow before your eyes, every word you repeat to yourself, all of these are seeds. The question is not whether you are planting, for you are always planting. The question is, what harvest are you preparing for? The individual who surrounds himself with defeatist talk, with cynicism, with idle distraction, should not be surprised to reap confusion and stagnation. The individual who surrounds himself with ideas of strength, with affirmations of possibility, with visions of a greater tomorrow, will inevitably reap growth, advancement, and victory. The harvest cannot be cheated. It is precise, it is exact, it is unfailing. If you wish to train your mind to rise, begin today by taking an inventory of your dominant thoughts. Ask yourself, do they lift me or do they drag me down? Do they inspire me or do they paralyze me? Do they expand my vision or do they shrink it to the size of my fears? Every thought is either a step upward or a step downward. There is no neutral ground. You are always rising or falling, never standing still. And the beauty of this law is that at any moment you can choose to redirect. You can choose to plant new seeds, to imagine new visions, to affirm new truths. The past may have been filled with weeds, but today the field is in your hands. This is not a task of mere moments. Just as the body is strengthened by repeated exercise, the mind is trained by repeated thought. One cannot expect a single positive thought to transform a lifetime of conditioning, but through daily practice, through persistent repetition, through deliberate cultivation, the grooves of the mind are reshaped, the patterns are rewritten, and the destiny is altered. You must train daily. Set aside time each morning to declare to yourself who you are, what you intend, what you believe. These declarations are not idle words. They are the building blocks of character, the blueprints of destiny. So let us begin here with a declaration that I want you to speak aloud, to write on paper, and to carry in your heart. It is a law, and if you will repeat it daily, you will ingrain it in your subconscious mind. I am one with powerful thoughts. I am free of fear and doubt. I rise because my mind is trained to rise. Say it, write it, live it. For as surely as the sun rises in the east, the mind that is trained to rise will lift the life along with it. The moment you decide to train your mind to rise, you separate yourself from the vast majority of people who move through life without ever questioning the invisible patterns guiding their days. Most individuals live as if on autopilot, repeating the same habits, reacting to the same fears, entertaining the same doubts, and hoping that somehow tomorrow will be different. But hope without discipline is nothing more than wishful thinking. To rise requires decision. It requires the act of seizing the reins of the mind and saying, from this day forward, I will no longer be a servant to my moods, my fears, or my old conditioning. I will become the master of my own thought. And when that decision is made, when it is carved into the deepest part of your being, a new kind of life begins, a life of responsibility, clarity, and direction. Now let us be clear, the training of the mind is not a temporary experiment. It is not something you dabble in when you feel inspired and abandon when you feel weary. It is a lifelong discipline. Just as the muscles of the body weaken when they are no longer exercised, so the strength of the mind diminishes when it is left unattended. But when you persist in daily practice, the mind becomes a faithful servant, a powerful instrument, and a guiding compass. Those who master this discipline will find that they can remain calm in the midst of storms, resolute in the face of setbacks, and steadfast in the pursuit of their goals. A great truth to remember is this: discipline precedes freedom. Say it, write it, remember it. Discipline precedes freedom. This is a paradox that confuses many, for they assume freedom means the absence of restriction. But the reality is that true freedom only comes when the self is mastered. The pianist is free to create music because he has submitted to years of practice. The pilot is free to soar above the clouds because he has disciplined himself to learn the laws of flight. And the individual who disciplines his mind is free to live fully, to create abundantly, to rise without fear, because he has mastered the laws of thought. Without discipline, there is only drifting. With discipline, there is power. What then does this discipline look like in practice? It begins with the simple act of self-observation. Throughout the day, watch your thoughts as you would watch a river flowing past. Notice what images dominate your mind, what fears try to intrude, what doubts attempt to take root. Do not condemn yourself for them, but do not let them go unchallenged either. Each time you catch a thought that drags you downward, replace it with one that lifts you upward. If fear whispers, answer with faith. If doubt murmurs, reply with confidence. If confusion stirs, answer with clarity. In time, this practice becomes automatic, and the mind becomes trained to reject the weeds and embrace the seeds of greatness. Consider how the athlete trains his body. He does not simply think about running, he runs. He does not merely imagine lifting, he lifts. He repeats the motion until the muscles grow strong and the form becomes natural. The training of the mind is no different. You cannot merely wish to think positively, you must practice it. You cannot merely hope to be courageous, you must declare it and act upon it. Every affirmation spoken, every vision held, every fear conquered is a repetition that strengthens the muscle of thought. And just as the body transforms under the weight of training, so the mind transforms under the discipline of repetition. There is another truth you must write down and speak aloud, for it is a cornerstone of this discipline. My dominant thoughts shape my reality. My dominant thoughts shape my reality. Repeat it until it sinks into you, for this is not poetry, it is law. The life you experience today is the harvest of yesterday's thoughts, and the life you will experience tomorrow is the harvest of today's thoughts. If you dwell on lack, you prepare for lack. If you dwell on opportunity, you prepare for opportunity. If you dwell on fear, you prepare for defeat. If you dwell on courage, you prepare for victory. It cannot be otherwise, because the law is exact. The beauty of this discipline is that it does not require brilliance, wealth, or privilege. It requires only consistency. Anyone, no matter his background, no matter his starting point, can begin today to direct his thoughts, to practice discipline, to rise above the common drift of the masses. There is no barrier but the one within, and there is no limit but the one you accept. History is filled with men and women who began in obscurity, yet through the discipline of their minds lifted themselves to greatness. They trained their thoughts, they held their visions, they acted with faith, and the world made room for them. But beware, for the opposite is also true. Neglect the mind, and the weeds of mediocrity will grow unchecked. Allow fear to rule, and you will become its servant. Permit doubt to dominate, and you will shrink your world to fit your limitations. The untrained mind does not remain neutral. It declines, it drifts, it decays. That is why this discipline is not optional if you wish to rise. It is essential. You must take it as seriously as a soldier takes his weapon, as a surgeon takes his instruments, as a builder takes his tools. For your mind is the instrument of destiny, and without its discipline, the structure of your life cannot stand. So let us affirm once more, and let this become a law written not only on your paper but upon your heart. Discipline precedes freedom. I am master of my mind, and through discipline I create my destiny. Say it aloud, write it down, and let it guide your actions. For when the mind is disciplined, the life is free, and when the mind is free, the individual can rise to any height he dares to envision. If you have followed me closely thus far, you now understand that the training of the mind is not an abstract philosophy, but a law of cause and effect, as real as gravity. And when we talk about rising, we must also talk about the battles that will attempt to hold you down. Every individual who has sought to elevate himself has discovered the resistance of the old patterns. These patterns are like grooves carved deep into the mind, grooves formed by years of repeated thinking, living, and believing. To rise means to climb out of those grooves and carve new ones deliberately. This is why so many begin but so few continue, for the old conditioning whispers, "Stay where you are, it's safer here." But you must recognize that the greatest danger lies not in the unknown ahead, but in the comfort of staying behind. Understand this truth: comfort is the enemy of greatness. Say it aloud, write it down. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. It may soothe you for a season, but in the end it strangles the will, numbs the vision, and keeps you chained to mediocrity. The comfortable life is the stagnant life. The rising life is the disciplined life. And though the path of discipline may be narrow and demanding, it opens into horizons that comfort will never allow you to see. You must decide which you want more, the fleeting ease of today or the enduring greatness of tomorrow. When you train your mind to rise, you will notice something remarkable. Your environment begins to shift in response to your new inner direction. People who once influenced you lose their hold. Opportunities that once seemed invisible begin to appear. Circumstances that once trapped you begin to release their grip. This is no accident. The world is a mirror, reflecting back to us the thoughts we hold within. Change the thoughts and the reflection changes. Many think the world must change first, that conditions must improve before they can feel strong or confident. But the truth is the opposite. The inner change comes first, the outer change follows. The rising mind creates the rising life. Think of the mind as a magnet. Whatever dominates your inner world is what you draw into your outer world. If you train the magnet with fear, it attracts fear. If you charge it with doubt, it pulls in failure. But if you strengthen it with belief, it draws opportunity. If you fill it with vision, it attracts direction. The law is as certain as the sun's rising, and once you grasp it, you will never again waste your time blaming circumstances or envying others. You will know that your power lies in training the magnet of your mind. You are not at the mercy of fate, you are the architect of it. This is why clarity of purpose is essential. A mind trained without a goal is like a sharpened blade without a target. It has energy but no direction. To rise, you must know where you are going. What do you want? What do you seek to build, to achieve, to become? Write it down, picture it, repeat it daily. For the mind cannot rise toward a vague dream, it rises toward a definite vision. And once that vision is clear, once it is repeated with conviction, the subconscious mind aligns itself with it, working tirelessly, day and night, to move you toward it. The subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. Whatever you feed it with repetition, it accepts as fact, so give it the facts you want to live. Here is a law I want you to ingrain deeply. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. Say it, write it, remember it. Success is not a sudden event, nor is it measured by applause, nor is it granted by chance. It is the steady, deliberate rising toward a goal that matters. Each step forward, each thought disciplined, each fear conquered is success. And as long as you continue progressing, as long as you continue rising, you are already successful. Do not wait for a single day in the future to declare it. Declare it now, live it now, and in doing so, you multiply it. Many people believe success belongs only to the few, to the gifted, to those born with advantages. But the law is universal. Success belongs to anyone who trains his mind, who fixes his gaze on a worthy goal, and who rises daily toward it. The individual who sells fruit at a market, if he does so with vision, integrity, and progress, is as successful as the man who builds a corporation. The mother who raises her children with love, clarity, and growth is as successful as the leader who inspires nations. For success is not the size of the goal, but the faithfulness of the rise. But remember, the moment you set a goal and begin to rise toward it, resistance will appear, doubt will whisper, fear will argue, obstacles will present themselves. This is not proof that you are failing, it is proof that you are moving. Every resistance is a test, and every test is an invitation to strengthen the mind. Do not ask for fewer obstacles, ask for greater strength. Do not ask for easier paths, ask for a trained mind. The resistance is not there to stop you, it is there to shape you. And those who persist through it discover that the obstacle itself becomes the path to mastery. So let us affirm another law together, for it will serve as your shield in times of resistance. I am stronger than doubt. I am greater than fear. I am success in progress. Write it, say it, repeat it. For when you declare it often enough, it becomes the belief of your subconscious, and belief creates reality. Success is not a distant destination, it is the rising mind that refuses to stop. Train your mind to rise, and nothing can keep you from climbing higher. The mind that is trained to rise must also learn the art of persistence, for no great ascent is ever achieved in a single leap. Mountains are climbed step by step, oceans are crossed wave by wave, and destinies are shaped day by day. Too many abandon the climb because they expect results to arrive swiftly, forgetting that the greatest works of life require patience, endurance, and a willingness to continue when others quit. The untrained mind seeks instant gratification, but the rising mind understands that persistence is the law of growth. Just as a seed must remain in the soil through seasons of rain and sun before it breaks the ground and bears fruit, so too must your vision endure through seasons of waiting, through times of silence, until it blossoms into reality. Let me give you a truth that you should write down and repeat often. Persistence breaks resistance. Say it aloud, write it, ingrain it. Persistence breaks resistance. Every obstacle, no matter how immovable it appears, eventually yields to the force of persistent effort. The stone is worn away not by a single drop of water, but by the continual dripping across time. The iron is bent not by a gentle touch, but by repeated pressure. And the mind, when persistently directed toward faith, vision, and determination, becomes unstoppable. Nothing in the world can resist the man or woman who refuses to quit. The danger, however, is that most people mistake temporary difficulty for permanent defeat. They face a setback, they meet with delay, they experience rejection, and they say to themselves, perhaps this is not for me. And in that moment, they betray their vision. But the truth is that every rejection is a redirection, every delay is preparation, and every setback is the forge in which persistence is tempered. The man who rises is not the one who never stumbles, but the one who continues after every stumble, who takes the lesson, strengthens his resolve, and presses forward. Persistence is not blind stubbornness. It is intelligent resilience. It is the ability to adjust, to learn, to refine your methods while never abandoning your goal. The ship that sails toward its destination may face storms, may alter its sails, may shift its course, but it does not abandon the harbor it set out for. So too must you remain fixed on your vision, even if the route changes, even if the winds shift. The destination is certain for the one who persists. There is a law that says energy flows where attention goes. Write this down. Say it often. Energy flows where attention goes. When your attention remains fixed on your vision, your energy organizes around it, your subconscious aligns with it, and your environment begins to adjust in response to it. But when your attention wavers, when you scatter your focus among distractions, your energy disperses and your progress slows. Persistence requires focus, and focus is nothing more than the discipline of keeping your attention where it belongs, on the vision that lifts you upward. Think of the great achievers of history, the inventors, the leaders, the pioneers. None of them reached their heights without persistence. Edison tested thousands of times before the light bulb became reality. Lincoln lost elections again and again before he became president. Each could have quit, each could have abandoned his vision, but they persisted, and it was persistence that carried them from failure to triumph, from obscurity to greatness. Their minds were trained not to yield, not to retreat, but to rise again and again until success was inevitable. You may not face battles of the same scale, but the law is the same. The student who persists in study, the worker who persists in improvement, the entrepreneur who persists in vision, all are rising in their own fields. Success is rarely about brilliance or luck, it is about persistence. And the wonderful truth is that persistence is a choice available to anyone. You may not control the winds, but you can control whether you keep moving forward, and that decision makes all the difference. The trained mind understands this and draws strength from it. When discouragement arises, it answers with persistence. When fatigue sets in, it replies with persistence. When the world says no, it declares with quiet determination, "I will continue." This is the voice of the rising mind, and with every act of persistence, the mind grows stronger, the will grows sharper, and the vision grows nearer. So, let us speak together a declaration that will become your anchor in the face of adversity. I do not quit, I do not retreat, I rise until I reach. Write it down, say it aloud, let it live in your heart. For persistence is the power that transforms dreams into reality, visions into achievements, and ordinary men into extraordinary leaders. Train your mind to persist, and you will train your life to rise. To train the mind to rise also means to recognize the immense power of attitude, for attitude is the lens through which we interpret every circumstance. Two men can walk through the same storm. One curses the rain and sees only misery. The other blesses it and sees the nourishment it brings to the soil. The storm is the same, but the result is vastly different because attitude determines perception, and perception shapes reality. If you would rise, you must take full command of your attitude, for it is not something handed to you by the world, it is something chosen by you in every moment. And once you realize this, once you understand that your environment reflects your inner posture, you will never again give away that power to others. Here is a law I want you to ingrain. Attitude is the mirror of the mind. Say it aloud, write it down. Attitude is the mirror of the mind. Whatever you project inwardly is reflected outwardly in the circumstances of your life. A cheerful and resolute attitude draws cooperation, opportunity, and resilience. A bitter and defeated attitude repels success, isolates companions, and multiplies difficulty. Many blame the world for their misfortune without ever realizing that their attitude is the silent architect of those conditions. Change the attitude, and the environment begins to change. Guard your attitude as carefully as a treasurer guards gold, for it is the currency that buys the quality of your days. You may wonder how one can maintain a positive attitude in the face of real hardship. The answer is not denial, it is perspective. Hardship will come, as it comes to every life, but you are not bound by the hardship, you are bound by the meaning you assign to it. The rising mind chooses to see every difficulty as a teacher, every setback as a lesson, every closed door as a redirection. This perspective transforms what could have been a weight into a stepping stone. A trained attitude does not pretend the storm isn't there. It simply chooses to rise above it, to use it as fuel, to let it harden resolve instead of softening spirit. Think for a moment of the workplace. Two employees are given the same task. One grumbles, delays, and delivers mediocre results. The other embraces it with energy, delivers it with excellence, and earns trust. The difference is not in the task, but in the attitude, and that difference accumulates. Over time, the one with a positive and disciplined attitude rises, while the other remains stagnant. Life works the same way. Attitude compounds. Every day you project confidence, you strengthen your magnet. Every day you project resilience, you expand your capacity. Attitude is the multiplier of effort. The truth is this: your attitude is your choice. You cannot always choose the conditions of your life, but you can always choose the posture of your mind. Say it aloud. My attitude is my choice. Write it down. My attitude is my choice. This is one of the most liberating discoveries you will ever make. For when you stop blaming conditions, when you stop pointing at others, when you take full responsibility for your attitude, you gain freedom. No one can take it from you. No one can dictate it unless you allow them to. And in that freedom lies the key to rising higher than the world ever expected. The untrained mind believes that attitude is reactive, that it must respond to whatever happens. But the trained mind knows that attitude is proactive, that it can shape what happens next. When you walk into a room with confidence and composure, you influence the atmosphere of that room. When you meet difficulty with calm strength, you shape the outcome of that difficulty. When you rise each morning declaring gratitude, your day bends itself toward opportunity. Attitude is not passive, It is active, it is a force, and when directed, it becomes the wind beneath your rising. Consider those who have endured great trials and still risen to greatness. They were not exempt from pain, they were not spared from suffering, but they carried an attitude that refused to be defeated. Nelson Mandela endured decades in prison, yet his attitude of dignity and forgiveness turned chains into a platform for freedom. Helen Keller lived without sight or hearing, yet her attitude of courage and learning turned her into a voice for millions. These lives prove beyond doubt that circumstances cannot imprison the rising mind, for attitude is stronger than environment. Every day you live, your attitude either builds a ladder upward or digs a pit downward. Which will you choose? It is not decided once, it is decided moment by moment, choice by choice, thought by thought. And as with any discipline, the more often you choose the rising attitude, the more natural it becomes. It becomes a habit, a reflex, a way of being. And once that happens, life itself responds differently. Opportunities approach, people are drawn to you. Circumstances begin to align, not because of magic, but because the mirror of your mind reflects new conditions into reality. So let us seal this truth with a declaration that you will write, repeat, and remember. My attitude is my power. I choose strength, I choose gratitude, I choose to rise. Say it aloud, write it down, and let it shape the mirror of your mind. For when attitude is mastered, destiny is no longer a question, it is a certainty. The trained mind rises, and the rising mind transforms the world around it. The rising mind must also understand the principle of sacrifice, for no ascent is possible without letting go of the weights that hold you down. Sacrifice is often misunderstood as loss, as deprivation, as something to be feared, but in truth, sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. It is the deliberate exchange of the lesser for the greater, the immediate for the lasting, the comfortable for the meaningful. Every man and woman who has risen to greatness has done so by paying the price of sacrifice. They gave up idle pleasures for disciplined work, shallow distractions for deep focus, temporary ease for permanent achievement. To rise, you must embrace this law. Sacrifice is the price of greatness. Say it, write it, remember it. Sacrifice is the price of greatness. The world whispers that you can have it all without cost, that you can achieve without giving, that you can rise without letting go. This is a lie, and it has trapped countless lives in mediocrity. The truth is that every choice carries a cost, whether you acknowledge it or not. If you choose comfort, you sacrifice growth. If you choose distraction, you sacrifice progress. If you choose fear, you sacrifice opportunity. But if you choose sacrifice itself, if you willingly give up the lesser for the greater, you rise. The law cannot be escaped. Sacrifice is unavoidable. The only question is, will you sacrifice upward or downward? Think of the athlete who rises to the peak of his field. He sacrifices leisure for practice, indulgence for discipline, nights of idleness for mornings of training. But the reward is strength, mastery, and victory. Think of the student who sacrifices distraction for study, who sets aside entertainment for concentration. The reward is knowledge, skill, and opportunity. Think of the entrepreneur who sacrifices security for vision, comfort for challenge. The reward is freedom, growth, and contribution. In every field, the rising individual accepts sacrifice not as punishment, but as the gateway to greatness. The untrained mind resists sacrifice because it clings to the illusion of safety. It says, if I hold on to what I have now, at least I won't lose. But in doing so, it loses far more. The chance to rise, the chance to live fully, the chance to discover its true capacity. Comfort becomes the chain, fear becomes the prison, and mediocrity becomes the sentence. The trained mind sees differently. It understands that sacrifice is not an enemy but an ally, that it is not subtraction but multiplication, that every disciplined trade is a seed planted for future abundance. Here is another law to ingrain deeply. Every sacrifice plants a seed for a future harvest. Write it down, speak it aloud. Every sacrifice plants a seed for a future harvest. The farmer does not mourn the seed he surrenders to the soil. He knows it will return multiplied. So too with your sacrifices. Each moment of discipline, each pleasure set aside, each hour invested in growth, each temptation resisted, these are seeds, and they will return to you multiplied in strength, wisdom, and achievement. But the one who refuses to sacrifice reaps nothing, for he has sown nothing. Remember also that sacrifice clarifies vision. When you give up what is lesser, you declare to yourself what is greater. Each act of sacrifice is a statement of identity. This is who I am. This is what matters to me. This is what I rise for. And the more often you make these choices, the stronger your identity becomes. Sacrifice is not only an act of discipline, it is an act of self-definition. It shapes you into the person capable of holding the greatness you pursue. Consider for a moment how much of life's suffering comes not from sacrifice itself, but from the resistance to it. We cling, we hesitate, we fear letting go, and in that struggle we suffer. But when we accept sacrifice as natural, as necessary, the burden lifts, the pain dissolves into purpose. The act of letting go becomes a source of strength, because we know it is not the end but the beginning, not a loss but a preparation. The rising mind embraces sacrifice willingly, joyfully, as the price that opens the gates of destiny. And yet sacrifice is not demanded in great leaps all at once. It is built into the daily rhythm of life. You sacrifice by choosing to rise early, instead of sleeping in, by choosing to read instead of wasting hours, by choosing to focus instead of drifting. These small sacrifices, repeated daily, build momentum, they shape character, they forge destiny. Greatness is not built in a single act, but in thousands of sacrifices made with purpose and consistency. So let us declare together a law that will anchor you when sacrifice feels heavy. I let go of the lesser to claim the greater. My sacrifice is my seed, and my harvest is certain. Write it down, repeat it, live it. For once you embrace this truth, once you willingly pay the price of sacrifice, you will discover that the mind is lighter, the path is clearer, and the rise is inevitable. Sacrifice is not your enemy. It is the very bridge to the life you seek. The rising mind must also come to terms with the power of vision, for no one can rise without first seeing beyond where they stand. Vision is the picture of the future held in the imagination, painted with the brush of belief, and carried with the weight of conviction. Every invention, every achievement, every empire, every work of art began first as a vision in the mind of an individual who dared to see what others could not. To train your mind to rise is to train it to envision, to look beyond the immediate circumstance and grasp the shape of what could be. Without vision, you drift. With vision, you rise. Here is a law you must write and remember: where there is no vision, there is no rise. Say it aloud, write it down. Where there is no vision, there is no rise. The man without vision is like a ship without a compass, tossed by every wind, lost upon the sea. The man with vision is like a ship with a fixed course, cutting through the waves, undeterred by storms, because he knows where he is going. Life will test you, conditions will shift, but vision provides direction. It gives meaning to sacrifice, it gives fuel to persistence, it gives reason to discipline. Without vision, all effort scatters. With vision, all effort unites. Understand that vision is not mere fantasy. It is not idle daydreaming. Vision is imagination disciplined by belief and directed by intention. It is a blueprint for reality. The architect sees the building long before the first stone is laid. The leader sees the movement long before the first follower arrives. The creator sees the finished work long before the first brushstroke touches the canvas. Vision is the seed of destiny. The clearer and stronger it becomes in your mind, the more inevitable it becomes in your life. The untrained mind rejects vision because it demands proof before belief. It says, "Show me, and then I will believe." But the rising mind says, "I believe, and then I will see." For this is the law of creation. Belief precedes manifestation. The farmer believes in the harvest before he plants the seed. The builder believes in the house before he gathers the materials. The successful believe in their vision before they see it reflected in the world. And by holding that vision, by nurturing it daily, by refusing to let it wither, they cause the unseen to become seen. Vision also acts as protection. When the winds of doubt blow, when the voices of critics rise, when the weight of fatigue presses down, the clear vision shields you. It reminds you why you began. It whispers to you in the darkness, "Rise." And that whisper carries you forward when nothing else can. Those who quit lack vision, not strength. Those who persist have vision, and that vision sustains them until the result arrives. Consider also how vision transforms identity. When you hold a vision of who you are becoming, you begin to act as that person today. You carry yourself differently, you speak differently, you choose differently, because your mind is already living in the future you have envisioned. And as you act in alignment with that vision, reality bends to match it. This is the secret of identity-based action. The mind that holds a vision of greatness will act greatly, and the life will rise accordingly. Here is another law for you to ingrain. Act now as the person you intend to become. Say it aloud, write it down. Act now as the person you intend to become. Do not wait for the world to recognize you before you recognize yourself. Do not wait for the crown before you carry yourself like a king. Do not wait for success before you walk with the posture of success. When you act in harmony with your vision, you invite that vision to materialize more swiftly. Vision must also be fed. Just as a flame requires fuel to burn, your vision requires reinforcement to grow. You feed it through daily repetition, through writing it down, through visualization, through speaking it aloud. You feed it by surrounding yourself with environments, people, and ideas that strengthen it. Neglect it, and the flame dims. Nurture it, and the flame becomes a fire that lights your path. Every morning, take time to revisit your vision, to see it vividly, to affirm it, and to recommit to it. This daily practice ingrains it into the subconscious until it becomes a certainty. So let us affirm together a law of vision that will guide you upward. I see clearly the life I am building. I hold my vision with faith, and I act as if it is already mine. Say it aloud, write it down, and repeat it often. For when vision guides your thoughts, your actions align, your identity transforms, and your rise becomes unstoppable. The mind that sees clearly is the mind that rises continually. The final truth you must ingrain if you are to train your mind to rise is this: thought without action is nothing, and action without consistency is wasted. The mind, once disciplined, once persistent, once fueled by vision and strengthened by sacrifice, must express itself through decisive action. Ideas alone do not lift a life. Beliefs alone do not build a destiny. The rising mind must become the rising life, and that happens only when thought takes shape in action, when conviction is translated into motion, and when daily deeds match inner declarations. The law is clear: you cannot think yourself into greatness without acting yourself into it. Many live in the realm of intentions. They speak of what they will do, they dream of what they might achieve, they plan endlessly but act sparingly. And so their lives remain bound by the chains of hesitation. But the individual who rises understands that every thought must be sealed with action. He knows that the smallest consistent act carries more power than the grandest unexecuted idea. He knows that movement itself creates momentum, that forward motion multiplies opportunity, and that each step taken affirms the vision held. To train your mind to rise is to train it to act calmly, confidently, consistently. Action also creates clarity. The untrained mind waits for certainty before acting, and in waiting it never begins. The trained mind acts in faith, and in acting it discovers clarity. The path unfolds to the walker, not to the dreamer. Opportunities reveal themselves to the doer, not to the doubter. You need not see the entire staircase to begin the climb. You need only take the first step with conviction. And as you step, the next step appears. This is how life rewards the rising mind, not with a map of the entire journey, but with a lamp that lights the next few feet, enough to keep you moving upward. Here is a law you must remember and declare: action seals belief. Say it aloud, write it down. Action seals belief. Without action, belief remains theory. With action, belief becomes reality. If you believe you are disciplined, prove it by rising early, by doing the work. If you believe you are courageous, prove it by confronting fear directly. If you believe you are destined for greatness, prove it by stepping boldly each day into the habits and behaviors that build greatness. Action is proof to the subconscious that belief is true. And when belief and action align, the subconscious accepts the identity fully, and the life rises accordingly. Do not mistake activity for action. Many fill their days with busyness, with tasks that drain time but build nothing. True action is purposeful, directed, and aligned with vision. It is not scattered, it is focused. It is not random, it is intentional. The rising mind chooses wisely, acts deliberately, and repeats consistently. It knows that success is not built in sudden bursts of effort, but in steady, repeated action compounded across time. Just as water carves stone through persistence, so your actions carve your destiny through consistency. Think of the law of compounding. A single penny doubled daily grows beyond imagination within a month. So too with your actions. One disciplined act, repeated daily, multiplies into habits, multiplies into character, multiplies into destiny. The untrained mind underestimates the power of small, consistent acts, but the rising mind knows that they are the foundation of greatness. Do not despise the small beginnings. Celebrate them, for they are the roots of the towering tree you are becoming. And here lies the final challenge. You must act now, not tomorrow, not when conditions seem perfect, not when you feel ready. Now, the rising mind does not delay. It knows that every delay is a seed of doubt, and every hesitation strengthens fear. The way to defeat hesitation is immediate action. The way to prove to yourself that you are rising is to act the moment conviction is born. Do not allow the spark to fade. Strike while it is alive, and let the fire carry you upward. So let us declare together this final law, the crown of all the others. I think with clarity, I believe with strength, and I act with power. My mind is trained, my life is rising, my destiny is certain. Write it down, speak it aloud, repeat it daily until it becomes your identity. For when your thoughts align with belief, and belief aligns with action, nothing in this world can keep you from rising to the heights you were created to reach. The trained mind rises, and with it, every part of life is lifted higher,